6 volumes deep, and the shadows are growing taller. Have you noticed? The air feels heavier tonight. You're not just watching a video anymore. You're stepping into the gray world. Welcome to Volume 6 of Curfew Stories. Tonight, we look at the things that shouldn't be where they are, and the people who aren't people at all. A GPS to nowhere. A courier was driving through a dense fog in the Appalachian Mountains. His GPS suddenly recalculated, showing a road that wasn't on his physical map, the Weeping Way. He followed it, thinking it was a shortcut. The fog turned a deep, bruised purple. After an hour, he realized the trees on either side weren't wood. They were made of stacked, calcified bones. The GPS voice started to stutter, then began to sob. "In 2 miles you will meet your mother," it whispered. His mother had been dead for 20 years. He tried to turn around, but the road behind him had vanished into a wall of static. He stopped when he saw a woman in the middle of the road, wearing the same dress his mother was buried in. She wasn't holding a sign, she was holding a stopwatch. The numbers started counting down his remaining heartbeats. The vending machine of lost regrets. In an abandoned subway station in London, there is a vending machine that still has power. The buttons are labeled with years: 1994, 2005, 2018. A teenager pressed 2012, and a small, cold glass jar slid down. Inside was a piece of paper in his own handwriting, a suicide note he had thought about writing, but never did. He pressed a button labeled with tomorrow's date. A jar fell, but it was empty. Then the glass shattered. A voice from inside said, "I'm out of stock for you, because tomorrow you won't have any regrets left to sell." He ran out, but every person he passed on the street had the same face as the man on the vending machine's logo. The room with the extra corner. A woman moved into a luxury apartment in Dubai. She noticed something odd. Geometry dictated 4 corners, but she found a 5th corner she couldn't see directly. It was always in her peripheral vision. In the recorded footage, she saw a tall, thin figure standing perfectly still in that invisible 5th corner. The figure was peeling the wallpaper back and stepping inside the wall. She touched the spot and felt something soft and pulsing. The building was demolished, but the crew found one room they couldn't enter. The sound that came back was a human scream. The 99th passenger. On a high-speed train in France, a conductor counted 98 passengers, but his digital manifest insisted there were 99. He noticed a man in Carrefour reading a newspaper from 1912. The man's skin had the texture of old parchment. The man handed him a gold coin that was still warm. "I'm waiting for my stop," he said. "The one where the tracks end." The conductor realized the train was gliding over a sea of black liquid. The passengers' eyes were now solid gold coins. The reflection that stayed behind. A dancer was practicing in a room full of mirrors. She fell, but her reflection stayed standing. The reflection whispered, "My turn to breathe." It stepped out of the mirror and into the room, humming a tune. The dancer is still in that room. If you visit today, you might see a girl trapped behind the glass, pounding on the surface. But be careful, if you look at her too long, she might ask you to trade places. Sleep tight, the gray world is watching. The unfinished symphony of the static. A radio enthusiast picked up a strange signal on a shortwave frequency. It was a beautiful, haunting symphony, but the instruments sounded like they were made of glass and wind. Between the movements, a voice would read out names and addresses. The enthusiast realized these were the names of people who had disappeared in his town over the last 50 years. Then the voice read his name. The music stopped. A loud, buzzing static filled the room, and the temperature dropped to 0. He felt his body beginning to vibrate at the same frequency as the radio. He was turning into sound. The last thing he saw was his own hand dissolving into glowing green waves of light, being pulled into the speaker of his radio. The 40-year-old polar expedition video. A hiker in Norway found an old GoPro camera frozen in a glacier. When he thawed it out and checked the SD card, the file was dated 1986 years before GoPros existed. The video shows a group of explorers walking through a blizzard. One by one, they stop walking and simply dissolve into black smoke. The last explorer turns the camera on himself. It's the hiker who found the camera, but 40 years older, with scars he doesn't have yet. The older version of himself looks into the lens and says, "Don't go into the basement tonight. I'm already there." The hiker went home and heard a rhythmic tapping coming from beneath his floorboards. He hasn't opened that door in 3 days. The silent cinema in the desert. A couple driving through Nevada found an old, neon-lit cinema in the middle of nowhere. No town, just a sign saying, "Now showing your final breath." They went inside, and the theater was packed with people. They were all sitting perfectly still, looking at a blank screen. When the couple sat down, the movie started. It was a high-definition recording of their car driving toward the cinema. Then it showed them walking in. Then it showed them sitting in the theater. The camera on the screen slowly panned to the left, showing a man standing in the row behind them with a silent, heavy axe. They didn't turn around, they ran. But when they got to their car, the back seat was covered in fresh 1920s popcorn. The architect of whispers. An architect bought a historic mansion to renovate it. He found a room that wasn't on the plans. He grabbed a sledgehammer and broke through the brick. Inside, he found a single wooden chair and a telephone. The phone rang. He picked it up and heard a chorus of thousands of voices whispering his social security number. He tried to hang up, but the cord was fused to his hand. He looked at the blueprints again, and they had changed. The house was no longer a house. It was a diagram of a human ear. He realized the house wasn't built for him to live in. He was just a vibration intended to feed the entity living in the walls. The Unending grocery store. A woman walked into a 24-hour grocery store at 3 a.m. to buy milk. She walked down the dairy aisle, but the aisle didn't end. She passed thousands of cartons, all with her birth date. She turned into the next aisle, but found only rows of mirrors showing different versions of her life. She's been running for what the outside world calls 3 years. To her, it's only been 10 minutes. Every now and then, a shopper in a red vest asks her if she needs help finding the eternal checkout. Volume 6 has reached its end, but the road ahead is still dark. Check your corners. Count your passengers. Subscribe to Curfew Stories before the signal cuts out.